a new day, it's a new dawn, whatever. Yeah, so like I said in the last video, we've kind of gone over some things, some issues we've had trying to move the transmission around. Might be having to put some serious dad strength on the transmission. I don't like putting dad strength on tightening, nuts down. Which, by the way, let's go over that real quickly. First off, I'm holding my hand this bracket. This is the bracket that goes over the transmission mount. It's the mount that goes to the transmission, and that goes through the cross member. This plate goes on it. 2 nuts go onto that. I actually had to egg out the holes a little bit because now that things are brand new, it just didn't fit exactly right. So don't be afraid to modify things just a little bit slightly. But yeah, so we're trying to move the transmission 1/4 of an inch, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if anyone's done any work on vehicles, 1/4 of an inch with 1,700 pounds can be a little bit of a chore. I don't have a hoist. I'm probably sure that if I just hooked this up to a hoist, lifted it up a little bit, and just slid it over, I'm sure everything could be just fine. And 1,700 pounds is exaggeration, but I know for a fact the motor does weigh like 700 pounds by itself, plus you got the transmission. So maybe it's more like 1,100 pounds or something like that. But besides the point, we're back at it. You know what? All those other videos, they make it seem like it's 2 seconds and go from there, but this is showing you a progression of what we're doing here on something like this. So I'll tell you right now, this has been worked on for about 4 days, off and on. Obviously, this is not a full mechanic shop. I'd probably have this done in 8 hours if I just worked on it steady, but sometimes you don't always get that option. So it's over a 4-day process. So that's another thing I want everyone to hopefully understand, that if you're going to do some projects, just make sure that you allow the allotted amount of time for anything that may or may not occur throughout the process. So that being said, we'll get back up underneath there and we are going to round 4. Welcome back. We are underneath the car. Some things have happened. I got the transmission moved forward a little bit. All the bolts are in. Look at that. Bolts here. Obviously, those nuts are on the studs with the bracket that I showed you about in the beginning of the video, and that bolt is in. Had to use a little bit of a pry bar and lower the transmission all the way so it's resting on the plate. Let all the tension off of it, and then raised it up about I'd say a 1/16 of an inch. I also took the liberty of these castle nuts here, running those down and pulling everything forward. So it kind of helped everything get aligned, and we're all good to go. Now that we're all good to go, we've got those in. I've gone ahead and loosened the top stud nuts of the motor mounts. That way, for one thing, we need everything to be able to shift around here. But the other thing too is, now these here and back here are going to need to be loosened so I can put the shims in place after we measure and figure out exactly where our center lines are going to need to be. So let me see if I can pull out here so you can see where those studs are. So this is the rear connecting plate that goes to the transmission, and these are the front studs. There's 1, 2, 3. Those are what you want to loosen out so that this can come backwards and you can get your shims up on this top portion. I'm gonna start everything up and kind of go from there. Welcome back. Alright, so we're now trying to make sure that we're centering the engine in the frame itself. So as you can see where I'm at, these are the teeth of the front of the car. I'm not going to show you the full front of the car, there's no reason for that. if you have your manual, which I highly suggest you have your manual. If you don't have your manual yet, please stop wherever you're doing and go and buy your manual. Your Buick manual's $30 on eBay. There's a bunch of different sellers who sells it. Bob's Automobilia out of California. Is it old car parts or old Buick parts? I can't remember. I want to say it's old car parts or Buick parts or something. They sell it. They're out of New Jersey. Anyway, reprinted manual, 1950 Buick. It's $30, $29.95. You can find it on eBay or by going to these guys' websites. You need the manual. There's a bunch of stuff that you're going to need the manual for. Now, like I've said before, the manual's not a hand holder, so you do kind of have to be a little mechanically inclined to understand this. But if you know what you're looking at, it'll be really helpful. So we're up underneath the vehicle, and you need to measure the distance between the two bolt heads, and we're going off of the sorry, we're going off of the bolt heads on the shock absorbers. Now, you can see the shock absorbers from here. Get my hand in the way. I took my gloves off. What I'm pointing at, that cylinder, and there's a bolt head back there. That's your right side shock absorber. And come over here, you can see the same thing with the bolt head back there. Sorry, the camera focused on my finger. There's the bolt head back there. That's your other shock absorber on your driver's side now. That's what you're measuring to. You could probably measure to something else. As you can see, this is the bottom of your spring mounts. If that makes it easier, I don't necessarily know if that's the best way to do it, but they are centered. Those could be something to also measure off of. You just want a really good on-center point. Now, you can see this big cylinder at the bottom of your pulleys. That's your harmonic balancer. If you ever being talked about your harmonic balancer on the crankshaft, that's your harmonic balancer. That's what you're measuring off of. Now, this is not exactly the easiest measurement to get off of. Like I said, you're taking a tape measure. It's probably better to do the tape measure to the bottoms of these shock mounts, and that might give you a more accurate measurement. But when you're doing this, you want everything buttoned up in the back. We went over what you do need to have loosened. So the top studs on your motor mounts, on not the bottom where it goes into the cross member, but the top studs, those need to be free. And those three rear needs to be free. Now, the book talks about disconnecting your torque tube so that things can move a little bit freer too. So get all your stuff straightened out and then measure your distances, and then you can kind of readjust everything from there. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and we'll come back. All right, so I've got everything measured out, and I want you to see where I'm taking this at. I'm trying to do this one-handed. So I've got my big old measuring tape. I recommend, now this is not a product endorsement or anything else, but I recommend Cobalt. Normally, oh, sorry, I'm recovering from COVID, so I'm trying to do this without a bunch of coughing. I like Cobalts. Now, normally at work, I use Milwaukee's, but Cobalt is really cool because this one has a button release, so keep the tape measure out. So that's your center line that you're measuring to, and this grease zert makes a really cool spot. Now, it doesn't want to focus in, but that's at 10.5 there. And we come over here and get our center line. Come on. It's not as easy as it looks. And our center line shows us, where is it? 10.5 on our center line up here. I know this is a pain in the ass and I've got the torch on, but I just want to show you what I'm measuring to. Let me turn this torch off so you can see what's going on back here, and I'll use my other one. So I measured to that center right there, and I measured to that center, this right here. I don't know why my camera's not in focus right now. Let's see if I can. There we go. Now it's back in focus. So there's that center piece there. There's that center piece right there. And I'll pull out so you can see what I'm measuring off of. I'll tell you what, I did this on the first try. So we're gonna go ahead and turn that off, and that's what you're measuring off of. Oh. Now we can tighten everything back up and get this car buttoned up. I'm actually not going to be finishing with it. These front wheels are coming off, and we're doing the wheel cylinders. I'll probably do that as a completely separate series of how to do wheel cylinders on a vehicle. If you've never broken your shoes open, these cars, if you're familiar only with new stuff, these are brake shoes front and back. So look for that in a separate video series. Aside from everything else, have a good night.